Ladies and gentlemen, seekers of light and secret knowledge wherever you may be, you are listening to Points of Light Radio, the podcast dedicated to taking you past the apron and behind the closed doors of lodges everywhere. And here is your host, Stan Miller.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. Shalom, assalamu alaikum, anastana. It's a pleasure to be back with you here on Points of Light Radio, the podcast dedicated to preserving the history and raising the profile of fraternal organizations everywhere. And I'm especially looking forward to this particular segment of Points of Light Radio because we will be featuring an organization that not only have I never featured them before, but I have been trying to feature them since the fall of last year. I mean, that's how long me and this particular gentleman will be featuring today. Haven't been able to kind of get our schedules together. That's what makes this all the more special. And that organization is the International Order of Alhambra. Now, to give you some insight, the International Order of Alhambra is a Catholic fraternal organization that was founded on February 29th, 1904 in Brooklyn, New York. The order is open to men and women alike. Their local lodges, organizations are called caravans. There are caravans throughout the United States and parts of Canada. The order derives its name from Alhambra, the Moorish palace in Granada, Spain. It was the last Moorish stronghold in Spain, and it was conquered by the forces of Ferdinand II of Aragon and Isabella I of Castile in 1492. Why am I doing all the talking here? Okay. My guest today is Kevin Owens. He's a member of the Carmona Caravan in Ohio. Right? And like I said, we've been trying to get our schedules together so we could do this interview since the fall of last year. So let's just have him come in here and shed some light on this interesting organization before our schedules don't mesh again. Are you still thirsty for knowledge? Are you still searching for the light? Then you just trim your lamp and follow me. Welcome to Points of Light Radio.
Thanks for having me.
So first of all, why don't you tell my listeners and viewers about yourself?
Well, my name is Kevin Owens, and I'm the Grand Commander of the Alhambra Cleveland Caravan, known as Carmona Caravan. And I am 56, married, 3 daughters, and I got into the group following in the footsteps of my parents. So as an adolescent, young adult, my mom and dad were in the Carmona Caravan in Cleveland, Ohio, and my father and a friend of his brought me into the group in the late 90s. And then a few years later, unfortunately, I lost my father, and a few years after that, his friend. And at the time, I had infants and just never went back. So in all transparency, I've only been back in the group. I always had been a member, but inactive until about roughly the first meeting in person post-COVID. And I went through a few months, and then they voted me to be the Vice Grand Commander. And then a year after that, the group wanted me to be their Grand Commander. And then the following year, they voted to have me be the Grand Commander again. My professional life, 33 years law enforcement, and currently a lieutenant in my local department.
Wow. What department's that?
I'd like to tell you it's Northeast Ohio, but by policy, we're not supposed to.
Okay. Well, go Browns.
Yeah, go Browns for sure, right.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll tell you that right now. I love the Browns, my favorite team. So, but you're here today to talk about the Order of Alhambra. Tell us about the order itself. What exactly do they do? How long have they been?
Well, I'm going to have to refer to a cheat sheet a little bit, but just off the cuff, the International Order of the Alhambra has been around since 1904, and it's international. By that I mean Canada and America. Most of our caravans, if you will, are stateside, but the order primarily deals with the assistance of persons with intellectual disabilities, but that is not necessarily how it began. We were founded in 1904 on, of all days, a leap year, February 29th, by William Harper Bennett. And Mr. Bennett had a hand in the late 1890s of being involved in assisting putting together the fourth degree of the Knights of Columbus. In 1904, and I don't know much about the Knights of Columbus, but they are absolutely Catholic. And in 1904, Mr. Bennett wanted to create a side degree of the Knights of Columbus, if you will. So that's how we actually started getting going, was back in the early 1900s as a side degree to the Knights. And it was primarily fraternal. And he put the organization together. He modeled the name Alhambra and all of our titles off of the history of the Moors going back into Spain. And to be more specific, we're talking about the Moorish palace in Granada, Spain, known as the Alhambra. That was the name of the palace. So there is Catholic history in all of that. And in that period of time, around the events around the Alhambra in Granada, Spain, the Catholic faith flourished. And that is why Mr. Bennett came up with the name Alhambra.
Okay.
And there's plenty more to that history. I would have to kind of read my notes, and it gets a little deep. But yeah, we're absolutely a Catholic organization. It started out under Mr. Bennett as fraternal and social. Then he created a second kind of a mission, and that was for the Alhambra as a side degree of the Knights to commemorate people, places, and artifacts that are Catholic. And I don't know how much of that goes on anymore. Back in 1993, the Alhambra, headquartered in Baltimore, began to create group homes for the developmentally disabled, and before that had as its mission specifically the assistance of intellectually challenged persons. And that's predominantly what our group does here in Cleveland. So for the last 75 years, the Carmona Caravan has been in service to persons, particularly children with intellectual disabilities, here in the Cleveland Diocese.
Yeah, and because let's delve into that a little bit. So this is one of the larger goals of the Order of Alhambra. So you are dedicated to supporting intellectually disabled children and adults. Now, you seem very passionate about this. Now, I'm going to open the mic and let you tell me about that. Of course, as a member of law enforcement, of course, you would be very, very. This would be something you would be very passionate about, because you're going to be dealing with some of these issues as well there. So, what exactly? Tell us more about this goal here of supporting those who are intellectually disabled, especially children.
Well, that is the goal of the whole International Order, which again is headquartered in Baltimore, Maryland. But here in the Cleveland Catholic Diocese, we've aligned ourselves with the Catholic Charities Disability Ministries, and our group here in Cleveland holds fundraisers and participates in events to actually do things with these children, which includes a prom that is held by St. Ambrose, and we try to volunteer at that. That includes the Miracle League, which is a kind of a modified baseball league for persons with disabilities up in Eastlake, Ohio. So the Miracle League is around the country, but we are very fortunate here in Northeast Ohio to have our own. And the Miracle League here in Northeast Ohio is, in partnership with some of the health systems here, has an adaptive ball field up in Eastlake, which is actually positioned right in front of a farm team of the Cleveland Guardians, formerly known as the Cleveland Indians. So the Lake Erie Captains is the baseball team, and they're part of the farm team of the Indians. And in front of their baseball field in Eastlake, Ohio, is the Miracle League. So we began a relationship with them last year. And then we also dedicate money that we raise at church canister collections and other events to the agencies that assist persons with special needs. So it's not just the things that we do with the kids, it's the monies that we raise and we donate to the agencies that serve them. And that has become a focal point of the Alhambra.
Do you work out of the schools as well, shall we say, try to get involved with the schools and after-school programs and things like that?
Well, most of our membership is older adults, older generations, and that's one of the issues that we contend with, like many fraternal organizations, is how we draw in younger people. But no, we're not necessarily in the schools directly.
Okay.
We deal with the agencies that support the kids, and we deal with the kids where the kids are at. So when the kids are involved in the Miracle League, when St. Ambrose holds their event, and when other things happen, we volunteer ourselves.
Yeah, and I think as someone who's worked in law enforcement, and we both worked in it, it is something that I really do believe that is necessary, that early intervention, going in before these disabilities, before these things become problems in adulthood, if you can possibly deal with them at an earlier stage, I think that is wonderful.
Well, the other component to my history and your history in law enforcement is that, we're sworn to serve and protect, and it doesn't matter who. So when I'm in the street doing what I do, we deal with bad people. We deal with bad people harming other bad people. We deal with bad people harming good people. We deal with good people having a bad day, and we protect everybody, particularly those people that can't protect themselves. And these kids certainly need the services that they have, and they need that assistance. And it's biblical. We're called to serve, and we're called to serve the least. And this organization does that in this way.
Now, one thing I wanted to ask you, is there a degree system within the Order of Alhambra?
No, not like it's known in the Knights. So our order of things is really a group of officers per caravan, and then a group of officers per region, and then the council of visitors, if you will, or however they call themselves at the international level, coming out of the headquarters.
Okay. Now, what would you say makes the order different from, shall we say, the Knights of Columbus? What would you say is?
Well, that is an interesting question. So they're both decidedly Catholic.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know very little about the Knights. I know they get a lot of love out of the Catholic Church. I know we compete. I know we compete for attention with them, but I can definitively say that the International Order of the Alhambra is absolutely Catholic. You have to be Catholic to be a member, and among our members have been Pope Paul the Sixth,
Wow.
John Paul II, Pope Benedict, and we've had plenty of support out of Rome, and we've had popes as actual members. And here in Cleveland, the auxiliary bishop Roger Grease, a Benedictine priest, who is, I think, in his early 80s, has been a member of ours and presides over our special masses regularly. So we're proud to have him. In fact, auxiliary bishop Roger Grease, when I was in Benedictine High School as a senior, was the abbot of St. Andrew's Abbey. So it's been nice being involved in the group, because I've been able to reassociate with him and other people from St. Andrew's that taught me when I was in high school.
So are there any plans to expand the order further internationally?
Well, that's a good question, and I don't know the answer to it. So we are headquartered in Baltimore, Maryland, and we've always been Canadian and American in terms of international status. But how headquarters moves from there is something I'm not aware of.
Okay. Now, I've heard it said from different people that you learn a lot about yourself in fraternalism. What have you learned about yourself in the Order of Alhambra?
Well, fraternalism is interesting that they use that term. So, as a police officer for 33 years, I've been a member of the Fraternal Order of Police.
Okay.
And I've also been its lodge president or vice president. I'm currently the lodge vice president. And it's very much the same. We have a lodge. It has officers. We have to meet. We have to vote. The officers have their own meeting. We keep minutes. So it's something that I've just always been a part of for 30 years. And now, obviously, with the Alhambra, and you learn quickly it takes a village, and you learn quickly that doing things orderly and doing things organized and responsibly can get a lot done. One of the things you got to learn right away is, these are your brothers and sisters that you're working with. You have a goal that's defined. You have to be organized, and you could do more as a group with a united purpose than you can for yourself. So these things are bigger than yourself as an individual.
And what do you think the order could do for others?
The order is currently, our caravan specifically, is trying to increase membership. And as we get the word out to the diocese that we're here, and I say that because for 75 years that my caravan has been in the diocese, and throughout the life of Alhambra as an international organization, as we moved into modern times, modern tech, cell phones, iPads, all this stuff, we've seen that the membership drop. Younger generations are not coming into fraternal organizations, even if they have an express goal of assistance to others, particularly of all things, kids with special needs. So we would like to see an expansion. We'd like to see a recruitment and what that can do for anybody coming in to participate in something bigger than themselves. It builds character. It unites people to a common goal, and it opens up a person into communion with others, particularly as Catholics, through the Mass and through what we do. And what really took a hit on us and many other organizations was what the country went through under COVID, what the world went through under COVID. We got locked up for a year. This group did not meet at all while lockdown was going on. I think they tried some video stuff. And when I decided to get back involved with the group, it was the first in-person meeting post the lockdowns. And so we didn't do anything. We didn't do anything with the kids. I don't know how much canister collection was going on. Nobody was outside. And it took a hit. And our first year back was when I joined. I went through a handful of months before we got to nominations. That's when I was nominated for vice president. But that year and a half of my first involvement coming back to the group was very quiet. There was a lot to get back in the groove and to overcome and to do things like that. So when I took over as Grand Commander, I really didn't know how it would be received because I'd been out of the group since my father died. Came back after the lockdowns. Things were kind of quiet. I didn't want to step on toes. There are members of this group who remember my father, who had been in the group 30 or 40 years. And here I come 2.5 years ago, and I got my foot on the gas. And so I was a little worried how everybody would take it. But it's gone good, and we're going to have another busy year.
Excellent. So, Mr. Owens, I appreciate your time today, and God bless you and the Order of Alhambra.
Thank you, Stan.
Kevin Owens, brothers and sisters, shedding some light on the International Order of Alhambra. So what do you think? Well, allow me to digress here. This is another one of those wonderful organizations that with its single degree structure, it means that you can get involved and immediately launch into being part of something special and doing a tremendous amount of great work. And you know, an organization, put it this way, when it comes to great work, how much better can you do for society than to help out intellectually disabled children? I mean, I think that's wonderful. They're doing a tremendous amount of great work out there. And if you join now, like I said, you can be part of something like that. It's also an organization that has been hit hard by not only societal changes, but also the COVID pandemic of the early 2020s. If you join now, like with many of you've heard me say this on previous segments of Points of Light Radio, if you join now, if a young person joins fraternalism now, you'll have an opportunity to move up very quickly and have a tremendous amount of influence in the future of of these organizations, right? In my February 9th segment of Points of Light Radio, you heard me ask, how do we maintain or restore brotherhood within our lodges? Well, his particular caravan has a meal, right, every time they meet. And I think that that is not only you know, breaking bread with your brothers and sisters in your lodge is a wonderful way to bond with them, but it's also quite biblical. If you look at it within the Bible, Jesus, at least twice during his ministry, fed multitudes of people. But not only that, if you look at Jesus during his ministry, he was oftentimes during his exhortations, he was sitting down in people's houses and having a meal. And of course, before his crucifixion, he spent that time with his disciples at that Last Supper, a time of debriefing and also fellowshipping over food. I mean, it's quite biblical, right? Never been a better time or better way to kind of slow down, take some time, eat a meal together, bond with your brothers and sisters. So I think that's wonderful. And let me ask you something. Have you ever heard of the Order of Alhambra? Well, now you have, because that's what Points of Light Radio is here to do. But that's all I have time for in this particular segment of Points of Light Radio. Before I go, I want to remind you, as I always do, that this podcast is available on both YouTube and Spreaker. Please share, like, and subscribe when viewing Points of Light Radio on YouTube. You can follow Points of Light Radio on my Facebook page at facebook.com/Points of Light Radio. My Twitter handle is at PO Light Radio. You can also see the link to my Spotify channel and my Points of Light Radio store. Brothers and sisters, it's been a pleasure fellowshipping with you, as well as my guest here today. Until we meet again, just step into the light.